For today's video, I'm going to tackle about the Module 4, which is the institutional-based correction. So first, let's discuss the Lesson 4, which is the institutional-based corrections, structures, managements, standards, programs, and services in the Philippines, two system-based approaches to corrections, the Bureau of Corrections or RA 10575, custody, security and control of prisoners, care and treatment of prisoners, release of prisoners, good conduct time allowance or GCTA, prohibited acts subjects to disciplinary actions, BJMP or RA 6975, Republic Act 9263, treatment of special needs of or unusual offenders, emergency plans, movement or transfer of prisoners or detainees, privileges of detainees and sentenced prisoners, the regional rehabilitation centers for youth, the Child and Youth Welfare Code, the Death Row, and the Rule on the Writ of Amparo. So first, let's discuss the institutional-based corrections. So first, let's define what is institution first. So an institution is a society or organization founded for a religious, educational, social, or similar purpose. So it means that institution, it is a social structure in which people cooperate and which influences the behavior of people and the way they live. So next is the correction, a branch of the criminal justice system concerned with the custody, supervision, and rehabilitation of criminal offenders. So it means that it is the process within the criminal justice system that punishes, treats, and rehabilitates the offenders for their crimes. So there are two purpose of corrections: the to punish and to rehabilitate the offender. The corrections as a component of criminal justice system. Correction is the fourth pillar of the PCJS and identified as the weakest pillar. As a field of criminal justice administration, it utilizes the body of knowledge and practices of the government and the society in general involving the process of handling individuals who have been convicted of offenses for purpose for crime prevention and control. So in the Philippines, the criminal justice system, correction is the fourth pillar, and it involves the handling offenders for crime prevention and control purposes through prison or jail as punishment. So next is jail administration and control in our country. So there are four: the Bureau of Corrections or BUCOR, the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology or BJMP. Third is the provincial governments, and lastly the Department of Social Welfare and Development or DSWD. So first is the Bureau of Corrections. So Bureau of Corrections is an agency of the Department of Justice which is charged with the custody and rehabilitation of national offenders who have been sentenced to 3 years of imprisonment or more. So this agency is charged with the custody and rehabilitation of national offenders that has been sentenced to 3 years of imprisonment or more. So next is Bureau of Jail Management and Penology. Bureau of Jail Management and Penology is an attached agency of the Department of the Interior and local government mandated to direct, supervise, and control the administration and operation of all district, city, and municipal jails in the Philippines with pronged task of safekeeping and develop of its inmates officially classed as prisons deprived of liberty or PDL. So BJMP, it is under the DILG, which has the exclusive control over all city, municipal, and district jails nationwide. So next is the provincial governments. So provincial governments is autonomous of other provinces within republic. Each province is governed by two main elected branches of the Philippines, the executive and legislative. So the judicial affairs are separated from provincial governance and are administered by the Supreme Court of the Philippines. So this is the under the DILG, which supervise and control their respective provincial and sub-provincial jails. And next is the Department of Social Welfare and Development. It's the executive department of the Philippine government responsible for the protection of the social welfare of rights of Filipinos and to promote the social development. The Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, is mandated by law to develop, administer, and implement comprehensive social welfare programs designed to uplift the living conditions and empower the disadvantaged children, youth, women, older persons with disabilities, families in crisis or at risk, and communities needing assistance. So it means that the SWD is under this is the Juvenile and Justice Welfare Council, which oversees the rehabilitation of young offenders. So there are two other agencies under correction pillar, which is the Parole and Probation Administrative, or the PPA, and the Board of Pardons and Parole. So Parole and Probation Administration. The Parole and Probation Administration, abbreviated as PPA, is an agency of the Philippine government under the Department of Justice responsible for providing a less costly alternative to imprisonment of first-time offenders who are likely to respond to individualized community-based treatment programs. So Parole and Probation Administration, administrative, it means that this agency is responsible for providing first-time offenders less cost alternative to imprisonment. So next is the Board of Pardons and Parole. Releases prisoners on parole and recommends the grant of presidential pardons. The Parole and Probation Administration supervises the rehabilitation of parolees as well as probationers based on the experience of the Department of Justice. The two offices perform complementary or related functions. So Board of Pardons are the one who supervises the rehabilitation of parolees and as well as the probationers. Next is the programs and services in the Philippines. So there are four programs under the mandate of BJMP. The PDL Custody, Security and Control. Next is the PDL Welfare and Development Program, the congestion program, and lastly the good governance. So mandate. The Bureau of Jail Management and Penology is mandated to direct, supervise, and control the administration and operation of all district, city, and municipal jails nationwide with pronged task of safekeeping and development of persons deprived of liberty or PDL. Mission to enhance public safety by ensuring humane safekeeping and development of persons deprived of liberty or PDL in all district, city, and municipal jails for their reintegration to society. Next is the vision. A premier institution highly regarded by society for the secure and humane treatment of persons deprived of liberty or PDL by its competent and motivated corps. So, the core values: professionalism, teamwork, efficiency or competence, commitment, and lastly the self-discipline. So those are the core values. Functions to formulate policies and guidelines in administration of all district, city, and municipal jails nationwide. Second, implement strong security measures for the control of PDL. Third is provide the basic needs of PDL. Fourth is conduct of activities for the development of PDL, improve jail facilities, and promote general welfare and development of personnel. So the objectives: to improve the living conditions of PDL in accordance with the accepted standards set by the United Nations. Second is to enhance the safekeeping and development of PDL in preparation for their eventual reintegration into the mainstream of society and to professionalize jail services. First, provisions of basic needs. All PDL under custody are provided with 3 meals, adequate supply of potable water is made available to them at all times. Likewise, upon admission, each PDL is issued his or her PDL uniform consisting of the yellow shirt and brown jogging pants. Hygiene kits are also distributed to the PDL on monthly or quarterly basis. Occasionally, the provision of basic needs for the PDL is supplemented by the food and non-food donations from local government units, non-government organizations, business sector, and private individuals. So, provision of basic needs. It means that the offenders are provided by the government with the 3 meals: the breakfast, lunch, and lastly the supper. Giving them enough supply like water, uniform, hygiene kits, and especially the basic needs. So next is the health services. Health services for PDL consist of interventions towards the prevention, promotion, treatment of illnesses, and rehabilitation. All PDL undergo medical assessment upon admission. During confinement, PDL are provided with health education and counseling, medical consultations, regular health monitoring, and provided medicines subject to availability to maintain the physical health of PDL. They are allowed daily sunning and physical exercise. So it means that health services, the offenders undergo assessment upon admission. During the confinement, the offenders provided with health education and counseling, medical consultations, regular health monitoring, and they are provided medicine subject to availability, and also they maintain physical exercises. So next is educational program. The educational program aims to provide opportunities for PDL to achieve mandatory education. For this reason, BJMP adopted the alternative learning system or ALS of the Department of Education for the PDL to earn their elementary and high school diplomas. Teachers in the jail-based ALS are BJMP personnel who are professional teachers and trained on the instructional method for ALS. In jails where there are no personnel trained to handle ALS classes, the ALS teachers would be coming from the Department of Education. All PDL enrolled in the ALS earn the respective time allowance for teaching, studying, and mentoring or TASTM or First 1 to RA 10592. So, it means that the offenders provided opportunities to achieve mandatory education even though they are imprisoned. So they adopted the ALS or the alternative learning system of the DepEd in order to get elementary and high school diplomas. So that's it. So next is the skills training or enhancement program. The objective of the skills training program is to equip the PDL with technical or vocational skills which they can use in seeking employment or starting their own business after release from confinement to make the PDL as competitive as other potential job seekers. The skills trainings preferred as though are those accredited by the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority or TESDA, so that the PDL will be able to earn national certifications. Thus, only the PDL who meet the eligibility requirements of the specific skills training program being offered can participate. So it means that before the release of the offenders, they are starting their own business. And through this program, PDL are equipped with technical and or vocational skills which they can use in seeking employment after they are released in prison. And also, through test, they can able to have NCs or national certificates. Next is the livelihood programs. The livelihood program presents income generating activities to PDL during their confinement where they are able to earn for their personal and keep and for financial support for to their families. The capital for the livelihood project are either from BJMP or BJMP funded projects or from the common fund of a group of PDL for non-BJMP funded projects. Examples of continuing and most popular livelihood projects of PDL are bags, purses, bonsai made of beads, pastries, rugs, paper crafts, and wood crafts. To help the PDL earn from these livelihood projects, the jail unit welfare and development officer or UWDO facilitates the sale of the production in display centers or livelihood caravans organized by the local government units and other service providers. In addition, online or e-marketing of PDL products is also run by the Jail Unit Welfare and Development Office. So it means that livelihood programs, these programs, of the offenders or the PDL will be able to earn for their personal savings for financial support to their families. So in this program, there is a livelihood project where PDL makes bags, wood crafts, purses, etc. to sell and display it display aid with the help of the UWDO, or the Unit Welfare and Development Officer. Next is the Behavioral Management or Modification Program. BJMP implements the Therapeutic Community Modality Program, or TCMP, to manage and modify behaviors of PDL with the goal of positively changing their thinking and behavior through structured group processes. The program endeavors to teach and model positive thinking, pro-social values, good decision making, and positive coping. Through the program, PDL are trained on socially acceptable ways of behaving and relating with their fellow PDL and with personnel and visitors, thereby fostering a therapeutic jail environment and maintaining a peaceful, full communal atmosphere. So it means that this program, the PDL are manage and modify their behaviors with the goal of positively changing their thinking and behaviors positively with the TCMP, or the Therapeutic Community Modality Program. So next is Interfaith Program. PDL are provided with the opportunity to practice their faith while under custody without discrimination, subject only to usual safety and security measures. The BJMP chaplains and imams provide different religious services, such as but not limited to mass celebrations, communal prayers, spiritual counseling, catechism, and others. Religious organization under respective ministers or pastors and leaders are accredited by BJMP to facilitate their regular contact with PDL for the provision of religious services. So it means that this program help PDL to communicate with God, to have faith while serving confinement. They are spiritual. There are I mean there are services. There I mean they've provided services like celebrations, catechism, spiritual counseling, etc. So next is cultural and sport program. The cultural program aims to promote camaraderie among PDL, encourage the development of self-confidence and sharing of cultural talents as form of positive entertainment. Cultural activities allowed in jails include dance, singing, theater or drama, and art workshops. Also, through this program, PDL experienced some sense of social normalcy through the communal celebrations of social cultural events like birthdays, Valentine's Day, Mother's and Father's Day, Christmas, Lent and Easter, Ramadan, and local festivals and other similar activities. So this program this program promote camaraderie and among PDL. It encourages the development of self-confidence and sharing their talents like dancing, singing, art workshops, etc. Also, through this program, they can have events events or celebrations like birthdays, Valentine's Day, and others, and so on. And lastly, the e-dalaw. The e-dalaw service is an alternative to the traditional face-to-face visitation between PDL and respective families. This service enables the PDL to connect with his or her family through a supervised video call and chat. The program is conceptualized specifically to cater to PDL whose family members cannot go to the jail for actual visit because of long distance to the jail from the residence of workplace of the family members. However, in case of jail lockdown, by reason of public health emergency, where visitation is suspended, all PDL are allowed to use the e-dalaw to communicate with their families on equitable rotation basis. So it means that this service helps PDL to see their loved ones or families. Also, it helps PDL to connect with his or her family through a supervised video call or chat. So next is approaches of Philippine correctional system. So there are two approaches, namely the institution-based correction and non-institutional correction or community-based correction. So when we say institution-based approach, it is the rehabilitation of offenders in jail or prison. Rehabilitation physical facility where the sentenced offenders will serve their sentence. And lastly, refers to those person housed in secure correctional facilities. So it means that it refers to those person housed in secure correctional facilities, or in simple words, institutional based corrections means that the individual is placed in a prison or jail. So next is community based approach. It is a sanction in which offenders serve some or all their sentence in the community. It is sometimes referred to as non-institutional corrections. The subfield of corrections in which offenders are supervised and provided services outside jail or prison. So, community-based approach means that correctional activities may take place within the community, or the method of correcting sentenced offenders without having to go to prison. So that's it. So the advantages of community-based correction. Family members need not to be victim. Also, they also for the imprisonment of a member, because the convict can still continue to support his family. Next, rehabilitation will be more effective as the convict will not be exposed to hardened criminals in prisons who will only influence him to a life of crime. Next, rehabilitation can be monitored by the community, thus corrections can be made and be more effective. Next is it is less costly on the part of the government, and cost of incarcerations will be eliminated, which is extremely beneficial on the part of the government. So those are the advantages of community-based approach. So next is the Bureau of Corrections, the RA 10575. The Bureau of Corrections, or RA 10575. This revised implementing rules and regulations, here and after called the IRR, is hereby adopted and promulgated pursuant to Section 23 of Republic Act, or RA number 10575, otherwise known as the Bureau of Corrections Act of 2013, for the purpose of prescribing and applying the necessary rules and regulations for the strengthening of the correctional services. It is the policy of the state to promote the general welfare and safeguard the basic rights of every prisoner incarcerated in our national penitentiary by promoting and ensuring their reformation and social reintegration, creating an environment conducive to rehabilitation and compliant with the United Nations standard minimum rules for treatment of prisoners or UNSMRTP. It also recognizes the responsibility of the state to strengthen government capability aimed towards the institutionalization of highly efficient and competent correctional services. So it means that this act is known as the Bureau of Corrections Act of 2013 for the purpose of prescribing and applying the necessary rules and regulations for the strengthening of the correctional services. Also, it promotes general welfare and safeguard the basic rights of every prisoner incarcerated. So next is the care and treatment of prisoners. All prisoners shall be treated with the respect due their inherent dignity and value as human beings. Second, there shall no, there shall be no discrimination on the grounds of race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Third, it is it is however desirable to respect the religious beliefs and cultural precepts of the group to which prisoners belong whenever local conditions so require. So next is the responsibility of prisons for the custody of prisoners and for the protection of society against crime shall be discharged in keeping with a state's other social objectives and its fundamental responsibilities for promoting the well-being and development of all. Fifth, except for those limitations that are demonstrably necessitated by the fact of incarceration, all prisoners shall retain the human rights and fundamental freedoms set out in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and where the state concerned is a party, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, and the International Protocol thereto, as well as such other rights as are set out in other United Nations covenants. Six, all prisoners shall have the right to take part in cultural activities and education aimed at the full development of human personality. Efforts addressed to the abolition of solitary confinement as a punishment or to restriction of its use should be undertaken and encouraged. 8. Conditions shall be created enabling prisoners to undertake meaningful remunerated employment which will facilitate their reintegration into the country's labor market and permit them to contribute to their own financial support and to that of their families. 9. Prisoners shall have access to the health services available in the country without discrimination on the grounds of their legal situation. And lastly, the with the participation and help of the community and social institutions, and with due regard to the interest of victims, favorable conditions shall be created for the reintegration of sex prisoner into society under the best possible conditions. So those are the care and treatment. So next is the release of prisoners' good conduct time allowance. So next is the release of prisoners good conduct time allowance or GCTA. Good Conduct Time Allowance or GCTA. Republic Act 10592 or the Good Conduct Time Allowance or GCTA law allows for a reduction of sentences of persons deprived of liberty depending on how well they abide the rules and regulations inside any penal institution and rehabilitation or detention center or any other local jail. So it means that the GCTA, this is also known as the Republic Act 10592, which allows for a reduction of sentences of persons deprived of liberty or the offenders. So how does it work? In May 2013, then President Benigno Noynoy Aquino III signed RA 10592 amending Articles 29, 94, 97, 98, and 99 of the RPC, which so to the following. So, expand the application of the GCTA to those under preventive of imprisonment of those detained prior and during criminal trial who are deemed too dangerous for release. Increase the number of days that may be credited for GCTA. Allow an additional sentence reduction of 15 days of each month of study, teaching, or mentoring service, and expand the special time allowance for loyalty and make it applicable to those under preventive imprisonment. Next is prohibited acts subjects to disciplinary actions. The following acts shall subject an inmate to disciplinary action, which are the following: participating in illegal sexual acts or placing himself in situations or behavior that will encourage the commission of illegal sexual acts. Next is openly or publicly displaying photographs, pictures, drawings, or other pictorial representations of persons engaged in sexual acts, actual or simulated masturbation, excretory functions, or lewd or obscene exhibitions of the genitals. C is possessing articles which pose a threat to prison security or to the safety and well-being of the inmates and staff, giving gifts, selling or engaging in barter with prison personnel, maligning or insulting any religious belief or group, rendering personal services or requiring personal services from a fellow inmate, gambling, exchanging his uniform with another inmate, or wearing a uniform other than those officially issued to him, using profane, vulgar, or obscene language, or making loud or unusual noise of any kind, loitering in the prison compound or reservation, giving a gift or providing material or other assistance to fellow inmates or to the prison administration in general, engaging in any private work for the benefit of prison officer of employee, controlling the activities of other inmates except in organization or groups recognized by prison authorities, tattooing himself or allowing himself to be tattooed on any part on his body. The removal or alteration of tattoos may only be performed by a prison medical officer upon prior approval by the superintendent. Disobeying legal orders of prison authorities promptly and courteously, threatening orally or in writing the life of any employee or prison official. Possessing any communication device like cellular telephone, pager, or radio transceiver. Constructing, renovating, or repairing with personal funds a prison building or structure, making frivolous or groundless complaints, and in general, displaying any behavior which might lead to disorder or violence, or such other actions that may endanger the facility, the outside community, or others. So that's so that's so those are the prohibited acts subjects to disciplinary actions. So next, let's proceed to the BJMP RA 6975. What is BJMP? The BJMP was created to address growing concern of jail management and penalty problem. Primarily, its clients are detainees accused before a court who are temporarily confined in such jails while undergoing investigation, waiting final judgment, and those who are serving sentence promulgated by the court 3 years and below. As provided for under RA number 6975, the Jail Bureau is mandated to take operational and administrative control over all city, district, and municipal jails. The Bureau has four areas of rehabilitation program, namely the livelihood projects, educational and vocational training, recreation and sports, and religious or spiritual activities. These were continuously implemented to eliminate the offenders' pattern of criminal behavior and to reform them to become law-abiding and productive citizens. Although the workplace of the Jail Bureau is confined inside the portals of jail to safeguard PDL, nonetheless, the Bureau has an inherent function of informing the public of jail operations and other matters concerning the corrections pillar of the Philippines. Coincidentally, being a new and growing bureau, BJMP aims to keep the public abreast of information regarding jail management and penalty. So RA 6975, the Jail Bureau is mandated to take operational and administrative control over all city, district, and municipal jails. And under this, it has four major areas of rehabilitation, which program, namely the livelihood program, educational and vocational training, recreation and sports, and lastly the religious or spiritual activities. So next is the regional rehabilitation centers for youth. So this is the regional rehabilitation centers for youth. The regional rehabilitation center for youth, or the RRCY, is a residential facility for children in conflict with the law, ages 15 years old and below 18. The center aims to provide the residents the ambience of a home for their reformation. So the RRCY, or the Regional Rehabilitation Center for Youth, is a facility for children in conflicts with the law that ages 15 years old and below 18 years old. So next is division. To enable the youth offenders restore their social functioning and live a normal life through reintegration or reunification to their family or relatives, and become a productive member of the community and society. Mission: to provide social protection to disadvantaged youth ages over 9 years old and below 18 years who needs appropriate care, guidance, supervision, rehabilitation, and development through alternative form of parental care with coordination with the local government units, social workers, and other stakeholders. So the goal, to provide a 24 hours individual and group care, treatment, rehabilitation services under the guidance of trained staff where residents are cared for on a structured therapeutic environment. Enable youth offenders who cannot undergo rehabilitation in the community to benefit the residential setting and provide them with substitute parental care and protection. And next is provision of protective rehabilitative and development of programs and services for them to acquire social and developmental skills and to improve self-image. The death row. Death row, also known as condemned row, is a place in a prison that houses an inmates awaiting execution after being convicted of a capital crime and sentenced to death. The term is also used figuratively to describe the state of awaiting execution, being on death row, even in places where no special facility or separate unit for condemned inmates exists. In the United States, after a person is found guilty of a capital offense in states where execution is a legal penalty, the judge will give the jury the option of imposing a death sentence or life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. It is then up to a jury to decide whether to give the death sentence. This usually has to be an anonymous decision. If the jury agrees on death, the defendant will remain on death row during appeal and the habeas corpus procedures, which may continue for several decades. Opponents of capital punishment claim that a prisoner's isolation and uncertainty over their fate constitute a form of psychological abuse, and that especially long-term death row inmates are prone to develop a mental disorder if they do not already suffer from such a condition. This is referred to as the death row phenomenon. Estimations reveal that 5-10% of all inmates on death row suffer from mental illness. Some inmates may attempt suicide. There have been some calls for a ban on the imposition of the death penalty for inmates with mental illness, and also case laws such as Atkins v. Virginia. To further this, execution still takes place for those with clear intellectual disabilities due to poor legal representation and high standards of proof. So the death row means it is also known as the condemned row. So it means that it is a place in a prison that houses inmates awaiting execution after being convicted of a capital crime and sentenced to death. So that's it. And lastly, the rule on the writ of amparo. Section 1. Petition. The petition for a writ of amparo is a remedy available to any person whose right to life, liberty, and security is violated or threatened with violation by an unlawful act or omission of a public official or employee, or of a private individual or entity. The rich shall cover extra-legal killings and enforce the disappearance or threats thereof. Section 2. Who may file? The petition may be filed by the aggrieved party or by any qualified person or entity in the following order. 1. Any member of the immediate family, namely the spouse, children, and parents of the aggrieved party. Second, any ascendant, descendant, or collateral relative of the aggrieved party within the fourth civil degree of consanguinity or affinity, in default of those mentioned in the preceding paragraph, or any concerned citizen, organization, association, or institution, if there is no known member of the immediate family or relative for the aggrieved party. So, it means that the role of amparo, it talks about a remedy to any person whose right to life, liberty, and security is violated. So, that would be all. Thank you for watching and listening.